I think in the last first we don't have class, right? Right. So we are going to start the next session. Triggers. So we'll try to cover the concepts of triggers the next 4 to 5 days. So let us see what is a trigger and how we are going to use it. Trigger is a automated operation. Whenever I insert the record, I want some action to be performed at the back end. Whenever we delete a record, I want some action to be performed at the back end automatically. So whenever you are making a DML operation on an object, you want some action to be performed at the back end, which is called automated action. Now, already we have done this type of concept with workflows, process builder. Then why you are coming to the trigger? Workflows and process builder has limitations. Workflow or a process builder will be performed after the record is saved. In the case of record is created or updated. But whenever any DML operation is performed, if you want some action to be performed before the record is saved, after the record is saved, then we want to go for triggers. I repeat, triggers are the automated operations which are performed whenever any DML operation is performed on the object. I repeat the definition. Triggers are the automated operations which are performed whenever any DML operation is performed on the object. Whenever the DML operation is performed on the object. Now, triggers are classified into 2 types. Before triggers and after triggers. Before the data is saved to, before the new data is saved to database, if you want some action to be performed, then we go for before triggers. After triggers. After the data is saved successfully to the table, if you want to make any changes, then we go for after triggers. So we have before triggers, we have after triggers. Now what are these before triggers? Before the data is saved to database, if you want to perform any action, then we go for before triggers. If you want to perform any action after the data is saved, then we go for after triggers. Now, what are the events which will fire the triggers? When are the triggers are going to be fired? Triggers are going to be fired when a record is inserted, updated, deleted, modified, delete. Okay, look at this. When are the triggers fired? Whenever the operation of insert, update, delete, and delete happens. When you perform a DML operation of insert, update, delete, and delete, the trigger will be fired. Now, you also have merge, upset, right? But what is this upset? Upset will perform either insert or merge will perform update. So it's nothing but a combination of update and delete. So when the triggers are fired, whenever you perform a DML operation, triggers are going to be fired. Whenever you perform a DML operation, triggers are going to be fired. Whenever we perform a DML operation, triggers are going to be fired. Right. So what are the trigger events? What are the trigger events? Before insert, before update, after insert, after update, the events which will fire the trigger. Events which will fire the trigger, they are before insert, before update, before delete, after insert, after update, after delete, after and delete. These are the events which will fire the triggers. Let us conclude it. Triggers are the automated operations which are fired whenever a DML operation is performed on the object. Triggers are the automated operations which are fired whenever DML is performed on the object. Now, what type of DML? Insert, update, upset, merge, delete, any type of. But when you say upset, Either it's going to be an insert trigger or update trigger. When you say merge, it is going to be update trigger or delete trigger. I hope you're good. What are the events which will fire the trigger? Before insert, before update, before delete, after insert, after update, after delete, after undelete. Before insert, before update, before delete, after insert, after update, after delete, after undelete. I hope you are good with this. Then we have trigger context variables. Trigger context variables. What are these trigger context variables? These are the variables which are defined in a class called trigger. Internally, we have a class called trigger. What is the name of the class? Trigger. Internally, we have a class called trigger. Within this class, there are some variables. Within this class, there are some variables. What is the purpose of these variables? These variables will hold these variables in the class. There is a class called trigger. This class will hold some variables. What are these variables? They will store the data required during the execution of the program. Whatever the data we need, whatever the data we need to execute the operation, the data will be stored in trigger class. They are called trigger context variables. We have a class called trigger. In the class, we have some variables which will hold the information required during the runtime of the program, which will store the information required during the runtime of the program. I hope you are good with this. So what are the variables we have? First is executing. Now when you are running a program, is the program is Apex code? Is it Apex code? Apex code is running. Is it a class? Is it a Visual Force? Is it a web service? Or is it an anonymous window? Or is it a trigger? How the program is running? Now we are running an Apex code. Which code is running? Is it a trigger? Is it a trigger? Is it a class? Is it an anonymous window? Is it a web service? What type of code is running? I want to know. There I give is executing. That is true if the current context of the Apex code is trigger, not Visual Force or web service or anonymous window. The current context of the Apex code which is running is a trigger. Okay, Apex code can be a trigger or a Visual Force page or an anonymous window or a class or a XYZ. Now the current Apex code which is running, if it is a trigger, it will give you true. If it is a trigger, it will give you true. I hope you are good. Next we have the current trigger. Trigger can be a insert trigger, update trigger, delete trigger. Now the current code is running because of insert trigger. Then is insert give you true if the current trigger is insert trigger. Is update give you true if the current trigger is update trigger. Is delete give you true if the current trigger is delete trigger. Are you getting my point? Is it an insert or update or a delete? Is it a before or an after? Is it a before trigger? Is it an after trigger? Next, is it a undelete? So what was this? All these are what? Variables which are available in a class called trigger, which will hold the data required during the execution of the trigger. Now we have new. New will contain list of new records which we are inserting. New map. List of new records in the form of map. Old version of the record. Old map. Old version of the data in the form of map. We see those variables with respect to examples. Then what is the operation type? Now what is the current trigger which is running? What is the current trigger which is running? Is it a before insert, before update, before delete? This is newly added. Previously we don't have this. Okay. Operation type will give you what type of operation going on now. Then size, on how many records you are running this operation. So all these are what? Trigger context variables. Right. We'll see them one by one. How you define a trigger? If you want to define a trigger, syntax is going to be trigger name on S object, 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 trigger name on S object. I'm giving it trigger name on S object. Trigger example on example. Trigger on account object after. So what was this? Trigger name on object event. Trigger name on object event. I hope you're good. So write the right after update trigger on contact. Right. These are custom objects. Example on trigger. Example on I hope you are good with this. Right. So we can also define multiple events. Trigger example on event. We can write a trigger with multiple events. We can write a trigger with multiple events. Trigger with multiple events. Trigger with multiple events. Trigger with multiple events. I hope you are good with this. We can write a trigger with multiple events. Okay. Now, let us start with the first example. Insert triggers. Now, look at the insert triggers. I have a table here. In this. This is how we have the table. This is the data what I have. Now tell me, in how many ways we can insert the data? I can go to page layout, click on new, insert the record. I can create a list of record, insert the record. I can go to data loader, insert the record. I can go to anonymous window, insert the record. So I can insert the record from multiple ways. Now, can you guarantee always I insert a single record? If I insert through data loader, group of records I'm inserting. In the programming, I have a list of accounts and I'm inserting. So I can insert a single record or a group of record. So I'm not sure whether you are going to insert a single record or a group of record. There is a reason. Always the trigger consider that you are inserting a group of record. Trigger will consider that you are inserting a group of record. If I write a logic for a group of record, it will work for a single record also. But if I write a logic for a single record, it will not work for group of record. There is a reason. Trigger always consider that you are working with a group of records. You are always inserting group of record. That's what the trigger assumes. There is a reason. Every trigger is a bulk trigger. 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 Bulk trigger means working with a group of record. If you are making a DML on a group of record, it's a bulk. So every trigger is what? Bulk trigger. Every trigger is what? Bulk trigger. Every trigger is a bulk trigger. Right. Suppose I clicked on new. I entered the data. I'm trying to insert a new record. When you click on the same, what we assume is record will go to database. This is what we assume. We assume that the operation is performed like this. But practicality is what? This is not the practicality. Practicality is, if you want, when you are trying to insert the record, before this record is saved to database, if you want to perform any logic, before the data is saved to database, if you want to perform any logic, before the data is saved to database, if you want to perform any logic, then that logic I am going to define in before insert trigger. So when I try to insert the record, it will go to before insert trigger, run the logic in the before insert trigger. After running this logic, the record will be saved. Are you getting my point? When you save the record, before insert trigger will run. After running the logic in the before insert trigger, then the record will be saved. then the record will be saved. After saving the record, then we have after insert trigger. Then the record will be, after saving the record, if you have any logic to be performed, that will be performed here. Then the record will be committed to database. Then the record will be committed to database. So what is that? When you are trying to insert the record, when you click on insert, DML operation insert, or from the web service I am trying to insert, or from the data loader I am trying to insert, whatever the way you are trying to insert, you may insert from anywhere. But the moment you say insert, it will go and run before insert trigger. After completing the before insert trigger, a record will be saved to database. After the record is saved to database, then after insert trigger will be fired. After running the after insert trigger, data will be committed. Data will be committed to database. I hope you are good with this. Am I clear? Am I clear? People are good with this concept? Okay. So when you insert, automatically before insert will run, then the record will be saved. Then after insert trigger will run, then the record will be committed. So record saving is done from here. So this process will happen for anything, any object, any record you do. This is the procedure. I hope you are good. Now let us understand how to define before insert triggers. What is the logic we are going to do? The moment you say insert, the moment I say insert, then before insert trigger is coming. Now what will be there in the before insert trigger? We have a variable called new. What is that? Trigger dot new. The record which we are trying to insert, the record which we are trying to insert, the record which we are trying to insert, they are in trigger dot new. The record which we are trying to insert, they are in trigger dot new. The records which we are trying to insert, they are in trigger dot new. I repeat, the records which we are trying to insert, they are in trigger dot new. So the trigger dot new is what? List of subject. Right now I am inserting only one record, but trigger will consider that we are inserting a group of record. Right. So list of record. Which records are here? Del. This is in list of record. Now in the before insert trigger, when I write a before insert trigger, is the data is saved to database? When I write a SQL query here, list of account, which records will come? In the before insert trigger, if I write a SQL query, which records will come? Wipro TCS. Why Wipro TCS? Because the del record is not yet inserted. Before inserting the del record into database only, the logic is running. When is this logic running? Before the data is inserted into database, this logic is running. Before the data is inserted into database, this logic is running. Before the data is inserted into database, this logic is running. So if I write a SQL query in the before insert, only the records which are saved will come. Wipro and TCS. Right? Now what about the record we are inserting? How will you get the record which we are inserting? This record, as it is not saved to database, then I have to say list of account. The record which we are inserting, that is in trigger dot new. Records which are already saved, they are in database. Record which we are inserting, where are those records? they are in the variable called trigger.new. Then how do you take? For this is what we got. Ownership public, rating equal to hot. This is how we are getting there. Now, should I make a DML operation to modify? When do you make a DML? If the data is already saved. If data is already saved, if you want to make a changes, I write a SQL query, get the data, make the DML. But is this record is saved to database? The record is not saved. So straight away I can modify. When I modify, what is the data that will be saved here? You give del 40. Public. This is how we got it. Right, boss? So what is the record that is saved? Why? You are making an attempt to save some record. When you are making an attempt to save the record, before insert trigger fired, made some changes on the record, then it is inserting the data into database. Now the record is not yet saved. So straight away we can modify the record by using write operation. If the record is already saved, I have to write a SQL query, get the record, make a DML operation. I hope you got my point. So the records which we are trying to insert, those records are in trigger.new. Records which we are trying to insert, they are in trigger.new. Now, records which are in trigger.new, can I fetch them by writing a SQL query? The records which are in trigger.new, can I fetch them by writing a SQL query? Not possible. Why? These records are not saved. Can I make the modifications on it? Yes. I hope you got my point. Am I clear? So what is the trigger.new? Trigger.new will contain list of new records which you are trying to insert. List of new records which you are trying to insert using insert. Okay. So let me give you a quick operation. New, how do you write it? File, new, Apex trigger. Choose the object. So your trigger name on object before trigger name on object before. Then how do you get the list of records? Trigger dot. The list of records what we are inserting, they are in trigger dot. How do you take one by one record? A dot rating equal to what? Now go back. Go to the account object. New. Captain info. I'm not giving any data, only captain info I give. Record is saved. What we are getting here? Reading equal to what? Phone equal to. Who set the data? When I insert the record, before insert trigger fired, then in the before insert we are saying rating equal to what? Phone number equal to so and so. Then record is saved. So when is this running? Before the record is saved to database, this is running. Before the data is saved to database, this is running. I hope you are good with this. People have followed this example. Clear for everyone? Okay. Let us go to the next one. Look at the code. Everyone is good with this? Everyone is good with this? Okay. Now, write a trigger on lead object. Write a insert trigger on lead object. Lead source as email. Rating as 1. Everyone make an attempt of writing it. Write a insert trigger on. Trigger example on lead. What we are supposed to write before. Right. Then how do you take the list of new record? List of lead. Leads equal to trigger dot for L. What we are giving? L dot lead source. Am I right? Am I right with this? People are good with this example? Very, very, very important topic. You'll be constantly working on this concept when you get into the projects. Practice well. Write a insert trigger on opportunity, which will set stream as Everyone make an attempt of reading it. Take an example on opportunity. Stage name. New. I hope everyone has got this story. Right? Trigger name, trigger name, trigger name on object, trigger name on object event before insert. Then we are taking one by one record which are in trigger.new, trying to perform the operation. Taking one by one record and trying to perform the operation. Third example. Write a insert trigger on lead. If the industry is banking, create this example. So we got list of lead trigger.new. What we are supposed to do? Check the lead industry. If L dot industry this is how we are writing. Everyone is good with that?
Satish, it should be L dot rating, L dot lead source.
Yeah, you're right. This is what we have done. Right, boss? Next one. Now everyone has followed this context. Everyone has followed this context. Now I want to write one validation rule. Using trigger, I want to validate the data. Using the trigger, I want to validate the data. What was that? Write a trigger. Write a trigger which will validate the lead source. Write a trigger which will validate the lead source. Write the trigger which will validate the lead source. If lead source is web and email is blank, then throw error. If lead source is web and email is blank, then throw error. If the lead source is web, email is blank, then throw error message. Then example on lead before insert. Then I've taken a list of leads which we are inserting. Whatever the leads we are inserting, they are in trigger.new. Then take one by one lead. Leads. Then I am verifying if lead dot lead source equal to web and email equal to blank. If lead source is web, email is blank, then throw error message. How do you throw? L dot add L dot. This will execute and show you. What was this? If the lead source is web, email is blank, then we want to throw error message. If the lead source is web and email is blank, then I want to throw error message. Let us see this example. File, new, Apex trigger. What is the object you are choosing? Then list of lead. Then take one by one lead. Then verify if L dot lead source equal to web and L dot email equal to blank, add this is what I give. So go back to this, go to the lead, capital lead source equal to web, trying to insert the record. Oops, there's a bug here. We give error message, it's not printing the error message before insert. Come back. Go back to the record, try to create one more. Same data I'm inserting again. Email field cannot be. So they're expecting a null value there. Right. So what is that? When you're trying to insert the data, we are trying to throw error message. Now, you may have complex scenarios. We are not straight away verifying the data in the record. We want to associate this data with some other objects. Let us say, I am trying to insert new record in account. If already account has more than 2 contacts, third contact cannot be inserted. Look at my validation. My validation is account object, contact object. Whenever we are creating a contact, whenever we are creating a new contact, verify how many contacts are there for the account. If already there are 2 contacts, third contact should not be inserted. My rule is maximum 2 contacts can be inserted for any account. If you are trying to insert the third account, if you are trying to insert the third contact, it has to throw error message. Did you get my point? Now this I cannot verify with the validations. Validation will use only that particular record data. It cannot fetch the data from parent record. Are you getting my point? I have a rule called account and contact. Both of them are connected by lookup relation. I want to write a rule. If anybody is trying to insert more than 2 contacts for a particular account, throw error message. Now, how will you achieve this? Now, I have to go for what? Validation. Using triggers. Let me define the same rule. So, here what we are supposed to do, when you have multiple rules, we will have impact. So, build, develop. The second one is, it is not a good practice to write a logic within the trigger. Always, it's a good practice to write the logic in a class. Call that class within the trigger. Never write the logic directly within the trigger. Write the logic in the class. Call the class within the trigger. Why? Any logic I write here, this is only for this particular trigger. I cannot use it anymore. If I write a logic in the class, that class can be used by multiple classes, or I can call the class within multiple triggers. So it is a good practice to write logic of the trigger in a. It is a good practice to write logic within a. It is a good practice to write logic within a class and call the class within the trigger. Call the class within the trigger. So let us see this example. I gave a class. Now, purpose of stating the static method. If I take a static method, what is the advantage? Class name dot method. Otherwise, I have to create a object and call it. So to avoid creation of object, straight away I am giving as what? Static. Static. Void. Now it is taken. Whatever the list of contacts you are trying to insert, if you pass a list of contacts, they are taking it. Get. Now look at the point. These are the contacts which I was trying to insert. These are the contacts which I was trying to insert. Now, first I have to get what? Contact account. Who is the account for you? If I am inserting a contact, my parent record cannot have more than 2 child records. My parent record cannot have more than 2 child records. Okay. Now, first take the list of I will take a set. I will take a set. Then I'm writing a for loop. Contacts. acc.id. Whatever the account for which we are inserting the contact, whatever the account for which we are inserting the contact, that account IDs we are taking. See, contact will have parent, right? Contact as a parent. What is the field name? Account ID. How we have become parent? For contact, how did that account become a parent? How can you make an account as parent? There is a lookup field. That lookup field will refer to what? ID of the parent record. What is the lookup field here? Account. So I have taken what? C dot account ID. C dot account ID. Now the contacts parent account ID. Contacts parent account ID. Whatever the contact we are inserting, that contacts parents account ID. Now, what is there in this list? All the accounts for which these contacts are inserted, that account IDs are here. Then list of aggregate result. Select count from account. Okay. Let me make it simple. So people every day is a new class. We have done a lot of for loops. We have done SQL queries, right? Again, why people are with the different expressions? Right. Select ID, comma, select account ID in. So tell me what this query will do. What this query will do? Get the account with the corresponding contacts. Where account ID is in above set. Get me all the accounts with the corresponding contacts of those accounts whose IDs are mentioned there. Then I am giving it. If for then what I'm doing here? If the record has any error, we are supposed to throw error message. Did you follow these points? Right. See, logic writing you have to practice, boss. You don't get the logic writing by listening to the classes. You are supposed to practice a number of examples. These are my account records. What is my rule? Contact 1. This is the data. This account is the contact. Whenever a new contact is inserted for Wipro, then it has to find out who is my account, Wipro. Go and find out for Wipro how many contacts are existing. Who is your account? Wipro. Now the contact for is created as a child for Wipro. The contact for is created as a child for Wipro. Now go to the Wipro company, find out how many contacts are there. If it already has two contacts, then I have to throw error message. This is the requirement. Now I am creating one more contact. Contact 5 for TCS. Who is your account? TCS. Go to TCS. Find out how many contacts are there. Only one contact. So this can be inserted. In this case, I have to throw error message. Contact 5 should be inserted successfully. Is that was clear? Is the requirement is clear? Okay. First, what should I do? When I am inserting a contact, I have to find out corresponding account. Okay, this contact is created for which account? This contact is created for which account? Then first is the accounts for which new contacts are. Fetch the accounts for which new contacts are created. How do you fetch the accounts? For take one by one contact. Then we are taking contact account ID, contact dot account ID. This contact's account ID should be added to add C dot. Now, why did I take a set now? There may be multiple accounts. Contact 1 created for account 1. Contact 2 is also created for account 1. So account IDs may be duplicate because contact 1 is created for account 1. Contact 2 is also created for account 1. So don't give me multiple IDs. This is how we got it. Now what I'm doing here, we got the list of IDs of the accounts for which the new contacts are created. Now what I want to do, find the accounts. Find the accounts with the corresponding list of account. Comma, select ID from contacts from account where ID in. Get me all those accounts whose account ID is in that list. Whose account ID is in that list. Then I create a map. ID comma is. Now what I was doing for account A. So line number 9, 10, 11. Any query on this? Line number 9, 10, 11. List of account with the corresponding contacts. Right? Then I create a map where account ID is the key. Count of number of contacts is it. Like this we got. So what I'm doing here now, ACC map dot count equal to list A dot contacts dot. A is an account For that account, number of contacts dot size. A is an account. A dot contacts will give you list of contacts. A dot contacts will give you list of contacts. Dot size. How many contacts are there? Then I gave ACC map dot put A dot ID, account ID. For this account, how many contacts are here? Already in the database, for this account, how many contacts are available? Then what I'm going to do? For let's see. Then get me integer count equal to ACC map dot put C dot whatever the account for which I am creating this contact. Okay, contacts account ID. For which account I am creating this contact, if I give that account ID, it will give me number of contacts. Already how many contacts are there? The contacts will come. Then check out if count is greater than 2. Then what we are supposed to do? C dot add. Cannot create more than this is what I'm trying to give. So look at the structure one more time. See, again I repeat. Logic rating you will get only when you practice number of examples. Now this requirement I have given a logic. Next requirement, what will it do? Getting my point? This requirement I explained. If I give one more requirement, then you expect the same logic to be defined. You have to practice the number of examples and use cases. Then only get it. Now here concept, you need to understand the concept. But logic rating, you have to gain it by yourself. Otherwise, you will only practice the example what I have given. You will not be able to write any other extra logics. People have to practice the logics. Whatever we have done here is a combination of what? List, set, map, SQL query. That's what I told. Whatever the business logics we write, we take the combination of list, set, map, SQL, DML. When you practice the number of logics there, you'll be able to write this logic here. Otherwise, it will be just a copy paste. Okay. Let me explain the requirement once again. So what is the first thing? Fetch those accounts for which new contacts are created. Fetch the accounts. How are you fetching the accounts? New set of ID. How do you do it? Take one by one contact from the list and add their corresponding account ID to the set. Then here I can add one extra condition. Contact C. What are the contacts you give? I took one by one contact. If C dot account ID not equal to, if account ID is entered, then I'll add the account ID to list. ACC IDs dot add. Is that clear? Any query on these 3 lines of code? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Anybody has any query on that? So I am taking one by one contact, adding the corresponding account IDs to the list. In case if it is not necessary that every contact will have account. Okay, I may give account as a blank. When you give account as a blank, then the logic should not run. Okay. Then fetch all those accounts with the corresponding contacts. Of those whose IDs then how do you write a parent-child circle query? List of, it is a parent-child circle query. How do you write? Select parent 1, parent 2, then select child 1, child 2 from childs. From childs, where ID in, then we got the list of accounts with the corresponding contacts. Then create a map with account ID as key and number of contacts then how did you create? Map of ID comma, so account ID as a key and number of contacts as a var. Then how do you do it? Account A, then list of contact A dot, what is that A dot contacts? List of contacts associated with the account. Then I'm giving ACC map dot put A dot ID seons dot size. A dot ID is account ID, cons dot size, count of number of. So the account ID and the corresponding contacts. Take one by one new contacts. For contact take one by one contact, then fetch the account first account, fetch the parent account. How do you get the parent ID? Parent ID equal to x dot account ID. Am I right? X is a contact, x dot account ID. The same thing, can I give it like this straight away? X dot account ID, parent ID equal to x dot account ID. Now I'm giving if parent ID is not equal to null, if the contact has a account, then what you are supposed to do? Get the count of number of contacts associated. How do you do that? Integer count equal to ACC map dot get parent ID. Then if count is greater than 0, greater than or equal to 2, then what we are supposed to do? X dot add I hope you are good with this now. Clear? Right. Okay. Now, this is the method what I wrote. If you want to run this method, what should I do? I have to pass list of contacts. If you pass a list of contacts, the method is going to run like this. Now, when I want this to run, I want this to run from a trigger. On which object I am writing this trigger? Contact object. Whenever we are inserting a new contact, see whether the contact has any account. If the contact has any account, if that account has more than 2 contacts, don't allow the creation of third one. So go to the new trigger. Contact. Then look at this list of contact. Whatever the contacts we are inserting, that is trigger dot. Okay. Now, which method you want to run? Now, what is the method name? What it is expecting? List of contacts. I passed this list of contacts. Now what happened? Instead of writing the logic within the trigger, we are defining the logic in the Apex class. We are calling that class with a method name. For this method, what do you have to pass? List of new contacts which you are inserting. If you pass, the logic is going to be executed. I hope you are good with this. I hope you are good with this. Okay. Now go back. It has contacts. New contact. No. Cannot create more than 2 contacts for the account. Because already we have 2 contacts for this account. There is communication, 2 are there. That's why it is throwing error message, right? Now actually this is what? Validation. Whatever the logic I wrote, it is a validation. But can I achieve this validation using regular validation rules? No. Now, when you write a regular validation rules in the administration, it only takes the data from the corresponding record. But when you want to write a complex rules, complex validation rules, then I have to go for triggers. Are you getting my point? Now, standard validation rules cannot achieve this requirement. That is the reason I am achieving with the triggers. When is this rule verified? Before the record is inserted. I hope you are good with this. Clear for everyone? Requirement is clear? For everyone? Okay. Let us take the next one. Now, I want you to write. We can create only 5 opportunities. Now write the logic for this. Same code, but I made it as an opportunity. Write the logic. We can only create 5 opportunities for an account. I want you to write a trigger which will allow you to create only 5 opportunities. Trigger has to verify whenever a new opportunity is getting created. Good. First, look at the code. Try to refer to the code and create it. Now, it is a similar format, but I have taken what? Instead of contacts I told, opportunity. First, what we are supposed to do? For which accounts we are inserting the opportunities? Get me those accounts. Right. We'll write the logic separately. What is the list of opportunities? Okay. First step. Step 1, fetch all those accounts for which new opportunities are created. Now, first do the step number 1. Fetch all the accounts for which new opportunities are created. So what are the list of opportunities we have? Opti list. Then how did you write the logic? List of then take one by one opportunity, add their account IDs to the list. Take one by one opportunity, add their how did you write it? If opportunity dot not equal to null, this is the first step. The step number 2, fetch all the accounts with the corresponding opportunities. Fetch all the accounts with the corresponding opportunities. Fetch all the accounts with the corresponding opportunities. Then write a query, fetch all the accounts with the corresponding opportunities whose IDs are in ACC IDs. Now, corresponding operations, how did you get it? List of opti list equal to list of accounts. Opportunities from account where ID in right. Step number 3, create a map with account ID as a key and number of opportunities create a map with account ID as a key and a number of opportunities as a value. Complete the step number 3. Then create a map with account ID as a key and count of number of opportunities. Then take one by one. Step number 4, insert the data into map from accounts list. Take one by one account from the account list, insert the data. Take one by one record from the map, take one by one record from the account list, insert the data. So how did you do that? Take a for loop, take one by one account from the list and verify how many opportunities are there. For every account, how many opportunities are there? Find out the count. Then put the data into the map. How did you put it? ACC map dot put a dot id opti dot I hope you got it. Take one by one account. Now what is that accounts here? This is accounts. A dot opportunity we give you that account list of opportunities. A is an account. A dot opportunities are list of opportunities associated with it. Then find out the size of the list. Take one by one record. From opti list and check how many opportunities are already existing for their parent account. Take one by one opportunity. What is the list of opportunities we inserted here? These are the list of opportunities. Take one by one opportunity from the opti list and check how many opportunities are existing for their parent account. Then how did you do that? For opportunity OP, then first check ID, parent ID equal to OP dot, get the opportunities account ID, then check whether parent ID not equal to, then what you are supposed to do? Get how many opportunities are there. Then write the error. If count is greater than, throw error message. I hope individually every step is clear. Right? Okay. See, you are supposed to take in a requirements like this and practice it. If you directly go with a simplified example, you will not be able to build complex logics. So take more number of scenarios and practice. You have to get a logic rating. We have to get a logic rating. That's the reason I asked you to implement the use cases what I gave in the Excel sheet. Never implements. Right. People want to gain 3 years of knowledge with 1 hour class. Implement the logics, boss. Right. I hope you're good with this. Right. That's all from my end for the day. It's regarding the before insert trigger. Tomorrow we'll see after insert trigger. So let me revise before I wind up. Let me revise. What is a trigger? Trigger is a automated operation, which is performed, which is fired whenever. Okay, which is performed whenever. Which is performed whenever. Okay, which is performed whenever DML operation is performed on the object. Now, how many types of triggers are there? 2 triggers. What are they? Before and after. What do you, before and after. Before means before the data is saved. After means after the data is saved. How many types of trigger events are there? Before insert, before update, before delete. After insert, after update, after delete, after delete. Now, what are trigger context variables? These are the variables defined in the trigger class, which will hold the data required during the runtime of the trigger. Tell me one example of some of the variable. Is insert. It will give you true if it is a before insert. If it is an insert trigger. Is update. Give you true if it is an update trigger. Right now we have seen only one variable. What is it? New. In the insert trigger, in the before insert trigger, trigger.new will contain the list of new record which we are trying to insert. In the insert trigger, in the before insert trigger, trigger.new variable will contain list of record which we are trying to insert. Now every trigger is what? Bulk trigger. Why? Trigger will consider that you are inserting a group of records. Trigger will always consider that you are inserting a group of record. So every trigger is by default a bulk trigger. That is the reason trigger.new will give you group of records. I hope you are good. This operation is performed before the data is saved to database. I hope you are good with this. Clear for everyone? Clear? That's all from my end. See you all in the next session. Parametric కింద తీసుకున్నాం కదా ఇది ఇచ్చే కదా ఆపర్చి అది ఎలా వస్తుంది ఓకే, పారామీటర్ అమ్మా మీకేనమ్మా. అర్థం కాలేదమ్మా. నువ్వు లాజిక్ రన్ అవుతుందమ్మా. నువ్వు రాసిన బై డిఫాల్ట్ బిఫోర్ ఇన్సర్ట్ వస్తుంది, మా అంటే మార్చుకోవాలి. అంతేనమ్మా, నీ బై డిఫాల్ట్ వస్తుంది, కావాలంటే మార్చుకో. ఏంటమ్మా డిఎంఎల్ అంటే మీనింగ్ ఏంటి? ఇన్సర్ట్ చేస్తే డిఎంఎల్ అంటావు. ఓకే, అప్పుడు ఇన్సర్ట్ ట్రిగ్గర్ ఫైర్ అవుతుంది. దాని తర్వాత మళ్ళీ ఇన్సర్ట్ ట్రిగ్గర్ ఇంకో ఆపరేషన్ చేసాను అనుకో, అప్డేట్ చేసాను అనుకో దేని మీద, అప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది? అప్డేట్ ట్రిగ్గర్ కాల్ అవుతుంది. ఏ డిఎంఎల్ అయినా దాని కరెస్పాండింగ్ ట్రిగ్గర్ కాల్ అవుతుంది. ఓకే, దేని మీద చేసుకోవచ్చు, దేని మీద చేయొచ్చమ్మా, దేని మీద చేయాలి. ఇప్పుడు ఏ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ మీద చేస్తావు, ఆబ్జెక్ట్ సంబంధించిన లాజికే తీసుకోవాలి. ఏమొస్తుంది? లీడ్ నువ్వు ఒక లీడ్ని తీసుకెళ్ళి ఒక లిస్ట్కి అసైన్ చేస్తావు. ఇక్కడ లిస్ట్ ఎక్కడ నుంచి వచ్చింది? ఇక్కడ ఫీల్డ్ ఏనమ్మా, ఉన్న ఒక రికార్డే కదా, ఒక రికార్డులే మల్టీ ఫీల్డ్. నువ్వు ఇక్కడ ఏమొస్తుంది? స్టాండర్డ్ కంట్రోల్ కదా, స్టాండర్డ్ కంట్రోల్ ఏమొస్తుంది? ఒక రికార్డే వచ్చాయి నీకు. ఓకే, రికార్డులో ఫీల్డ్స్ ఉంటాయినా, ఒక రికార్డులో మల్టిపుల్ ఫీల్డ్స్ ఉంటాయి. మల్టిపుల్ ఫీల్డ్స్ ఉన్నాయని మల్టిపుల్ రికార్డ్స్ రావు కదా. ఫస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ ఇక్కడ రాంగ్ ఇది. ఇక్కడ లీడ్ తీసుకున్నావు, ఏమొచ్చింది? లీడ్ అనేది ఒక రికార్డు. దేనికి అసైన్ చేస్తున్నావు? లిస్ట్కి ఇస్తున్నావు. ఎర్రే కదా మరి. గెట్ రికార్డు ఒక రికార్డే వస్తుంది కదా, ఒక రికార్డే తీసుకోవాలి కదా, లిస్ట్ తీసుకున్నావు. దీన్ని బట్టి మార్చుకో ప్రోగ్రామ్. ఓకే, చెప్పు. అయిపోయింది, క్లియర్ అయిపోయింది. రిటర్న్ అయిపోయిందా? రిటర్న్ క్లియర్ అయిందా? క్లియర్ అయిపోయింది. సో నువ్వు వెళ్ళేసి అడ్మిన్ దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళిపోయి ఆప్షన్ కోళ్ళు సెలెక్ట్ అయిన వాళ్ళ నెంబర్ తీసుకో. వాళ్ళు తీసుకుని సిస్టమ్ టెస్టింగ్ ఇస్తున్న వాళ్ళు సిస్టమ్ టెస్ట్ పెడతాడు. సిస్టమ్ టెస్టింగ్ క్వశ్చన్స్ తీసుకో. మన ఆల్రెడీ ప్లేస్ అయిన ఉన్నారు, అడ్మిన్ దగ్గర తెలిసి యాప్ షార్క్లో ఆల్రెడీ ప్లేస్ అయిన వాళ్ళ కాంటాక్ట్ నెంబర్స్ తీసుకొని వాళ్ళు కాల్ చేయి. సిస్టమ్ టెస్టింగ్ ఇస్తూ చెప్తారు, చూసి ప్రాక్టీస్. ఓకేనా? మళ్ళీ రేపు ఈ సాటర్డే రోజు, సాటర్డే కానీ ఫ్రైడే కానీ ఇంకో కంపెనీ వస్తుంది. ఓకే, స్మార్ట్ బ్రిడ్జ్ ఏదో కంపెనీ ఇక్కడే క్యాపిటల్లో దేశ ప్లేస్మెంట్ ఆన్ ఫ్రైడే. ఓకే, చెప్పమ్మా. That's all from my end.